Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Glad we're recording so people can come back to this. I hope today will be really interactive. So if you have questions, please post them in the chat or unmute yourself. But I think we all met earlier. And I see some familiar names in this list of people. So I'm Adam. I serve as Director of Admissions. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm glad to be with you talking about our CC Cares initiative. And I'm going to post the website in the chat box. And I'm going to show you how to get here on the website. It's sort of confusing. So I'm going to spend some time today showing you how to get here and reviewing the resources that you will find here and what you can access from our CC Cares website and what it's all about. I guess the first thing to share with you is a little bit about CC Cares and what this means. But our Central Carolina Cares initiative is really, if you head to that website, you're going to see sort of a clearinghouse of a lot of our resources that are both local to CCCC, so ones that are sort of internal to us, and also community resources that students can be connected with in our local communities and region. You'll also see a reporting feature. If you were on our session this morning with our student services folks, I briefly mentioned about our behavioral assessment team and that there's a way that you can, or Mr. Hoyle did, there's a way that you can report through our CC Cares website concerning behavior. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then there's some general information about our Title IX policy, who our Title IX coordinators are, and our behavioral assessment team. So I'm going to review that information with you today, and if you do have questions along the way, please stop me, raise your hand, post a chat in the chat box, unmute, however you wish to do that, and we can chat through some things. So first things first, I posted this link in the website, but so you know how to get here, if you go to our main website, you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you're going to see this little link that says Central Carolina Cares, okay? And that is a clickable link, so it will take you to the main website that looks like this, okay? And so you'll see there's three different sort of links that you can sort of dig into here. The first in the middle is Find Support. The Find Support tab is going to let you sort of drive into really all of our resources. There's drop-down menus where you can access a lot of different resources, and we're sort of trying to continually keep that up to date, and we're constantly adding resources. As you might have imagined, like at the beginning of COVID, a lot of our resources changed. Like we added, as an example, a free laptop checkout program. So that has been beefed up quite a bit over the past year specifically. The blue one that says we can help, that is just some additional information about what our Title IX policy is, what our behavioral assessment team is, and things like that. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, I'm going to review that in a little bit more detail, but wanting you to know sort of as you're digging into these little buttons here where they're going to take you. And then if you click the file a report, that actually allows you to file a report. And the reporting feature is fairly simple. It is sort of set up to be a Title IX specific report, but it is most of the information that it's gonna ask you to input is completely optional. So as an example, if you are wanting to submit a report on a concerning student that you might be working with in your classroom or in your office, you can completely bypass so much of the information that it's asking you to include and really just input the student's information and maybe a synopsis of what happened or the reason for your concern. So that is what you're going to get when you sort of dig into these buttons here. So we talked about Find Support, and I'm going to exit here and I'm going to pull up the CC Cares website. I want to make sure that you can see my website now. All right, there we go. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to dig into We Can Help. So as you can see, this is going to walk you through a little bit more about what our Title IX policy is, how to report Title IX concerns, who our Title IX coordinator is. For students, that would be Heather Willett, and for faculty and staff, that would be Trinity Fawcett, who's our HR director. You all met Dean Heather Willett in our earlier meeting with Student Services folks earlier this morning. And so I'm assuming that most of us know what Title IX is, but Title IX and the respect for this conversation is concerning sexual harassment, sexual violence, sexual assault. So if there are any concerns that students might encounter while here as a student, they could pursue the Title IX reporting process through what we've outlined here. So I'm not going to get deep into the weeds on that. If you do have questions, we can sort of walk through that with you. You'll also see the behavioral assessment team information here. The behavioral assessment team, I think we mentioned a little bit earlier, with Mr. Hoyle and the student services staff. The behavioral assessment team is a group of folks from across our 3-county region, and we meet to review any students of concern. So these are not necessarily students that might have violated a conduct policy or a judicial policy, but students that might have popped up on our radar for maybe exhibiting concerning behavior, things like suicidal ideation, self-harm. They could have written something in a paper that might have really concerned you or led to believe that that student or maybe the larger CCCC community could be put at risk. So these are the types of situations, and those are only examples. The behavioral assessment team process is a completely different training, but those are just some examples of things that might sort of rise to the level of a behavioral assessment team. Behavioral assessment teams rose out of the time of the Virginia Tech, if anyone remembers the Virginia Tech shooting. These teams like this sort of rose out of that time period where we needed to have a larger sort of big picture viewpoint about what was happening with students across campus. And so our behavioral assessment team is tasked with doing that and sort of reviewing students' behavior and any concerns that might pop up. And so we might take action on students, we might just monitor them. So it will all be dependent on the individual student situation. So I'm going to go back here, and I want to show you the report just to let you know. So this is what the report looks like. It will allow you to sort of go through this process here, most of which is not required. And then you'll see really the pieces that are required is the date of the occurrence and a synopsis of the situation that you're reporting on. However, you want to input as much information into this report as possible. When you submit a report, it's going to go to myself and Dean Heather Willett, and we will review that and determine the best next step. So typically, if it's a Title IX based concern, Ms. Dean Willett will respond to that and work it through our Title IX process. And then if it rises to a level of behavioral assessment, then we'll submit on to our behavioral assessment team for review. Sometimes it might not cover either. We might just respond to whoever submitted the report and say, hey, provide us some more information so that we can determine the best avenue for responding. Or we might say, maybe this is a conduct concern that Mr. Hoyle needs to take through the judicial process. And then last but not least, what we really want to focus a lot of our attention on today is the find support. So the biggest portion of our CC Cares website has a lot of these resources here. And so I'm going to highlight some of these. You'll see here at the top, we do Angel Tree every holiday season. So this is a good resource for you to sort of keep track of. A lot of classes will adopt an angel on our Angel Tree during the holidays. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward into closer into the fall, winter season. You'll see campus security numbers, local police, and sheriff offices. So these are all the numbers locally that you might have to contact if you ever needed to contact our local security here on campus or on the campus that you're on or within your local counties or communities. If you're ever dealing with, you might be asking yourself, well, who should I call first? Should I call security or should I call the police? If you're dealing with a true emergency, you definitely want to call the police. whatever is easiest at that time period. So if it is a true emergency, dial 911. They will always route our local security officers and staff over to your location. So we want to make sure that we address the most immediate concerns first. You'll also see some childcare resources. We do offer evening childcare for students who are taking evening courses. And then we also have childcare grants available for students that might qualify there. So if you're working with students who do have dependents or are in need of childcare resources, this is an excellent avenue. So definitely take a look further there. Our financial aid office typically will work with students to see if they might be qualified for childcare grants. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to our financial aid office. But there is additional information on the Child Care Assistance website. I'm going to skip the connecting with resources and leave that for the end, but I will come back to it. We also have what we call a Dream Keeper Fund, and this is an emergency grant fund for students. So you'll see that on this listing here, students can receive up to $400 per academic year, and these are really for small, time-limited funding gaps that the student might experience. So as an example, it could be related to car issues that the student is having that might prohibit them from driving to campus, or not being able to pay for a textbook or a piece of equipment or a supply that they might need for their course. So again, these are just simple funding gaps where CCCC can fill in the blank there for the student and assist them in being successful long term. So it could be a number of things, childcare included here, utility payments, electricity bills, internet bills, things like that will keep the student in courses and help them out along the way. And that's what this is designed for, is sort of short-term funding for students to be able to continue their courses with us and to be successful long term. Finish Line Grants is a statewide initiative that would help students complete their degree and provide funding for that if they've completed at least 50% of their education or their training program. And so there's lots of details there that we can get into, but if you are working with a student and they've completed at least 50% of their degree and they exhibit some of the criteria here for Finish Line Grants, definitely connect them on through this process. And I believe there is a website that you can sort of dig into to find more information to see if students would be eligible, but it does provide a significant amount of funding for students to complete their degree. I mentioned this earlier, but we do have a free laptop checkout program. So if students are looking to check out a laptop, they're taking online courses or something like that, and they don't have access to technology of some sort from their home, they can check out a laptop. Our library facilitates that process. So right now there was an online form that students could complete. Right now we're doing that through in-person checkout at the Lee and Harnett campus library. So if you have students that are in need of that resource, definitely connect them to our library. Then you're going to see the Ruby McSwain Career Closet and the Cougar Market. The Career Closet provides clothing resources for students. It's really meant for students who are, maybe going for interviews or having to go into like their preceptorships for a health science career maybe, or they're starting an internship. They might need professional dress or dress for their specific career field. The Career Closet might be able to provide those resources for students, so definitely connect them over. That is located on the Lee main campus, so certainly items can be available on any one of our main campuses if the need were to arise. You can see there is there's a form that students can complete, and then there's some of our business and accounting faculty are listed there as contacts in case students need to reach out to them. But that is right now, the physical Career Closet is located over on the Lee campus. So if you are in need of items, feel free. The main contact is Shirley Rogiski, who is over in our Human Resources Department. Our Cougar Market, very similar, and this is over, by the way, this is over in Wilkinson Hall. So the Career Closet and the Cougar Market in the same location in Wilkinson Hall, sort of midway down the hallway. That's on the Lee main campus. The Cougar Market would provide any food items for students in need. So there's lots of items there for students. You might have seen recently, I believe this went out through social media and maybe on our website, we are having a food drive to fill our Cougar Market. So definitely take a closer look at that. And if you could participate, certainly we would love for you to assist us there. But again, it's stocked with non-perishable snacks. Also, I believe there are some perishable items in there too. So things that students can grab from a freezer or a refrigerator. But really, it's really to make sure that our students have consistent access to food and to fill those food insecurities that might exist within our student body. You'll also see that we have a Safe Zone program for students that identify as LGBTQ, and you'll see we do that training program in a couple of times in the fall semester and spring semester. And you'll see we have some trained allies across all of our campuses, and so we list them there in case students need to contact them. We do have a preferred name change form, so if students need to change their name as it's listed in the system, there's a process for that. And then some LGBTQ resources, both nationally and regionally, and then within local communities that students can access. Our STARS program is an additional resource for students both in Lee and Harnett County that really can help in a lot of different areas, whether it be employment, education, housing, financial literacy, and goal setting. There's lots more information, so you can sort of dig into that a little bit here. Last but not least, the Student Assistance Program provides free mental health care or mental health counseling for students. We do not have a mental health counselor, a licensed mental health counselor on our campus that serves in that capacity. So we work with what we call the Student Assistance Program. It's very similar to the Employee Assistance Program, which you might have already heard about, that you have access to as an employee at CCCC. The Student Assistance Program works in a very similar way. So students have 3 free sessions per year per issue. Okay, so a student could have 3 mental health counseling sessions per year, per academic year, per particular issue. So there's lots of resources there. What the student would do to get connected, they would contact that number down there or get on our Student Assistance Program website, and then they would work with someone at the Student Assistance Program to be connected to a mental health counselor in their local community. And that is completely free. This also would apply to family members of the student. So this would apply to their family members as well. The Student Assistance Program also provides some additional things like free legal advice, issues, resources for alcohol and drug related issues, goal setting, financial literacy trainings, things like that. And then the only other thing that I was going to highlight, and then I'll leave, I think we have some time for questions, so I think we're making some good time here, is the connecting with resources. So if for some reason you're working with a student and you don't see anything here that is what the student needs, so if you're searching for resources not located already here, go click on the Connecting Resources tab, and it'll be listed here, a little link for you to put in a zip code. So you can put in a zip code. So if we were looking in the Sanford area, we could put in 27330. And let's say you were looking for a resource for the student that we don't already have on campus or listed on our CARES website. This is what we call Aunt Bertha, and it is a free search engine for resources within a student's local community. So let's say you were looking for food pantries in the local area or housing needs, so anything like that, you could search here, or you could go in here and sort of delve down. So for the time being, let's see what comes up if I were looking for mental health. It's going to pull up any resource related to mental health in this local Sanford area or that serves this area. And you can see that you can filter by a lot of different ways, like who they serve, what types of people they serve, what type of insurance they might take, Do they serve people without insurance? So you can sort of delve down as much as possible. There's Daymark, who serves Sanford area. So you can see lots of options there for mental health care. And that would allow you to share resources with a student. So let's say I wanted to share this particular resource at UNC Healthcare. I could click share, and it would allow me to either send an email, or I could text the student, or I could share it on Facebook if I wanted to. And so that's an easy way to connect students to resources if they ever need things that might not be listed already on our CC Cares website. So I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to stop. I'll go back to our main CC Cares website here. Are there any questions that I can answer about the CC Cares initiative? Or Erin, was there anything that we needed to cover that we haven't already?
I can't think of anything else we need to cover. But if anybody has questions, feel free to unmute or type it in the chat. And also, I'll do a little plug for a session next week. If you haven't seen the email yet about the Fall Welcome Week schedule, I'm sending out another one by tomorrow. And Adam, as well as some of the other people you've met today, including Dean Heather Willett and Megan Sherman, and also Candace Solis, who you have not met yet, they are doing a really awesome session during Welcome Week next week called Connecting Students to Mental Health Resources. This is a session they started back in the spring, and they've added to it, and it's evolved over the past few months, but it's a really wonderful session that really dives into a lot of the resources Adam has touched on today. So look for that email in the next day or two, and I encourage you to sign up. If you can't attend, though, there will be a recording available on our PD Blackboard site within a week or so of that session.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be excellent training. Highly encourage it. We'll talk a little bit about FERPA and connecting students to mental health in regard to like the FERPA regulations, as well as signs to look for, how to approach students, things like that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, if you do have questions later, feel free to reach out. I put my email there in the chat box. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Erin. Have a good rest of your training.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. All right, so we've got a few minutes.